Hello, just a quick video on my tips for the South Downs Way, some of the things that I thought are quite important to know. I did it nearly 2 weeks ago now. I did it over 4 days, which was quite excessive. I planned to do it over 5, but on the third day I kind of had my second wind and I think I went a bit too mad. And then on the fourth day I just wanted to get it done because the weather was turning. But however long you do it, a lot of people do it over a week, like 7 days. Here's some tips which I think you should know about, and not to run anyone down, but there are some YouTube videos out there saying things like the food, which is going to be my priority, like don't take too much food because there are shops and cafes everywhere. So this is the first thing I want to address. There isn't at all. If you stick to the trail, you won't come across many shops or pubs or cafes. There are some, but not many. There's no petrol stations. There's one or two, but not many. And sometimes there can be like a 10-mile path with nothing, no facilities whatsoever. Now, there are lots of villages off the trail, but you have to go off like a mile. And if you're doing big miles every day, whatever it is according to your ability or however you want to pace it out, that adds like another mile going into a village, sometimes 2, and back again, and you don't want to be adding that up, especially if you're trying to sort of like do big miles. So in an emergency, you think I've run out of food or I haven't got enough, then you can deviate into one of these villages. It's all on the map, but the actual trail itself, there's not a lot. There's hardly any burger vans, ice cream vans, nothing. There are 1 or 2 spots, and I've sort of made a note of them at the end of each video. I did about each day. At the end I did like a run through the map, but you can find it on Google as well. But stock up with food, because there are stretches where there's nothing for quite a long time, and it's quite hilly as well, so you need energy. So make sure you've got plenty of snack bars on you, and food. You know, if you do come across a shop, buy a baguette or something like that. When you get to Winchester, it's right in the town centre. There's lots and lots of shops there, so stock up there as well, like get some bits and bobs. But do your research on where the cafes are and the shops, because there aren't many. So make sure you've got lots of snack bars on you, because you may get to a point you think, I've got 5 miles left until the next facility and I'm hungry. So get something to eat. Make sure whatever it is works for you. Make sure you've got enough food. Now, if you're camping along the way as well, make sure you've got enough food for the night. So I took pot noodles. I wrap them up in freezer bags. I don't take them in the actual pot because it takes up a lot of space. Pot noodles aren't amazingly healthy, but they do carb you up. They give you a big boost of energy. And the ingredients aren't much different from those adventure foods that you get in the fancy packets and everything. I just wrap them up in freezer bags and take them with me. I have a little stove as well, but as a last resort, you can cold soak those as well. Just, you know, pour some cold water in just above the amount, leave it for an hour or so, and you can eat it. It's not very glamorous, but take food with you if you're camping. That's what I recommend, or enough for 2 or 3 days at least, or a couple of days, because the shops are quite sparse, okay? And the pubs as well, and chip shops, things like that. If you're thinking, oh, well, I'll be eating all along the way, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you won't, unless you go off the track, which is a bit of a pain. And sometimes when you've done a load of miles, the last thing you want to do is deviate. What was I going to say? Yeah, a lot of the campsites as well, I only stayed at 2. They close, like, as in you can go in and camp, but there's no facilities there. There's no cafes, there's no food. So check that as well. Some do. I noticed a couple of the youth hostels were still open in the evening to do food, but the campsites, no, nothing. And there's nothing near them either. So do your research before you go and check that you've got enough food, or somewhere where you can get food, or somewhere that's open as well. So that's my number 1 priority on this tips for the South Downs Way, is make sure you've got enough food, because there's not much. Now, when it comes to water, that's not a problem. There's plenty of water taps along the way. There's not many streams or rivers, if hardly any, 1 or 2, that you could actually fill up your water bottles if you have a filter system like a Sawyer Mini or a Canadine B3 or something like that, or water tablets. But if you're relying on streams and rivers, then there's nothing again. So make sure you do your research and check where the water taps are for the South Downs Way. Some of them are really obvious. You walk past them and there they are. Some aren't. You have to check on the map or online. It's all on there, and make sure you've got enough water. Again, there's plenty of them. Sometimes, I mean, the first one I came across didn't work, so don't rely too heavily on those just in case they don't work. I think it's a real desperate measure. If you really were running out of water and it was getting hot, just knock on a door and say, I'm ever so sorry, I'm doing the South Downs Way, could I fill up my water bottles, please, from your tap or something? But the water situation is pretty good on the South Downs Way, but, you know, dependent on whether those taps are working. But yeah, do your research, make sure you know where those water stops are. Again, because there can be quite a few miles until you get to a water stop, and make sure you fill up, make sure you've got enough on you. Like, say, for instance, I go through Dartmoor a lot and I don't really take an awful lot of water with me because there are streams and rivers everywhere and I don't need to worry about whether I'm going to get water. But on the South Downs Way, that's not the case. So that's my tip for food and water. Another tip, camping. If you're thinking of camping, there are campsites everywhere. They're all along and you'll see them, and there's youth hostels, which is great. But one thing I noticed, I stayed at 2 on the first night and they were okay. But some of the others that I walked past, they were all on a slope. A lot of them, I saw all these tents on a slope. Now that would really annoy me if I'd booked a campsite and then I get there and it's on a slope. I hate sleeping like that. You sort of roll down one end of the tent. So check before if you're going to use campsites. Ask them, can I have a flat pitch? Is there a flat pitch? Because a lot of them I saw, I'm not running them down, but a lot of them I saw were on a slope and I would be really peed off at that. Another tip, wild camping. Now, before I start even talking about wild camping, if you're going to do it responsibly, okay? I think it's tolerated along the South Downs Way. I did it and many others have. Just obviously common sense, no barbecues, no fires, don't leave any litter and try and be stealth. Don't, you know, on fields with cows or whatever, just use your common sense with wild camping and pitch up later on in the evening when it starts getting dusk. That's sort of the usual thing as well, and just, you know, have your bit of food from your stove or snacks, whatever you've got, and then be gone the next day. Even your toilet stuff the next day, dig a cat hole and cover that over. Don't leave any trace, because the more people start ruining it for everyone else, then wild camping will be completely banned. So when it comes to wild camping, I would say, personally, I'm not recommending this. If I did the South Downs Way again, I wouldn't use any campsites. I fear that they're going to be on a slope or you're going to be next to someone who's noisy or something. There were so many wild camping spots along the way. Everywhere I looked, I was like, oh, there's one. Every mile, I was like, there's a perfect spot, perfect spot, perfect spot. You can go up higher, there's lots of flat spots. And the wild camping situation in the South Downs Way is endless. So if you are thinking of wild camping, if you're sort of like, want to dip your toe in that, there are lots and lots of places to wild camp, the whole route. I just saw so many, I thought, it's a perfect spot to wild camp, so that's not a problem at all. But again, if you do it, be respectful and leave no trace at all. Footwear, make sure you've got some good footwear, so whether it's trail runners or boots, whatever it is, but I would make sure that the sole is pretty thick and can withstand impact, because a lot of the path, it's very well pathed the South Downs Way, it's amazing. It's that flinty rocks, those sharp flinty rocks all along the path, and they really pound your feet. So, you know, don't wear thin plimsolls or something like that, because your feet will just be bruised up. A lot of the pathway is those really sharp, flinty, small rocks. So make sure you've got decent footwear that can take a bit of impact as well, because you will be walking on sort of rocks a lot of the time. And I think that's just about it. So however long you do it, get one of those little maps from Amazon. They're about £8. You just turn it over and there's the trail. Each page you just follow the route. Do your research online, check for food places when they're open as well. Like one place I was heading to, a farm shop, I thought, great, I'll stock up there. It's closed when I got there. Another couple of places I went past, they were only open from Wednesday to Sunday. So you say you're doing it on a Monday or Tuesday. So do your research on where these places are open. What else? Hills and stuff. It is quite hilly. It's not the worst stuff I've ever done. It's not, you know, like climbing Ben Nevis or anything like that. But there are hills. There is a level of fitness to have to do the South Downs Way, definitely. It is hilly, and some of those hills go on and on and on and on. They really, really do. So I take hiking sticks with me. It makes a big difference when you got a pack on. Yeah, it's not flat. Some people have been told that it's not very difficult the South Downs Way. It's not as difficult as a lot of other hikes, but there certainly are hills, so take that on board as well. So I think that about does it. The rest of it is just do your research, but they're the big ones: food, water, camping, and the hills. So oh, and your footwear. Definitely. So yeah, I hope this helps if you're hoping to do the South Downs Way. I really enjoyed it. It's fantastic. There's some beautiful open plain views. I was quite lucky with the weather, apart from the last day. I got absolutely battered on the last day by the weather, but yeah, it is a lovely walk. You meet lots of other people on the way. Sometimes you don't meet anyone for ages. There's a lot of cyclists as well. But yeah, it's a really beautiful walk, and I think it's a good one. It's not an easy walk by any means, but I think it's a good one for people to get started. If you want to start getting into like a longer through hike where you want to push yourself a bit and perhaps camp along the way, I think the South Downs Way is a pretty good one to do because it's so easily signposted. The path is very obvious, and the hills are there, but they're not killer. Well, I don't want to be arrogant. I didn't find the hills that difficult, but they are there. So I think it's a really good one to start, the South Downs Way, if you're thinking of getting into hiking. So I hope these tips help, but number one, make sure you've got enough food. All right, thanks for watching.